Very disappointing. You got a Catholic Lord Shipper versus a Protestant Lord Shipper, you know? And that was essentially it. But I got to prepare for my debate coming up on the kingdom. Well, it's going to be challenging because, I'm going to be tired because we're going to be doing more physical things. But, I just pray providentially God will work it out so that I can get the prep I need done. Brandon Meyer said pretty bad, but I think Ryan's position is just untenable. Yeah, you got to go free. It's free grace versus Catholic. Anything in between, you're going to look inconsistent. Everybody else is just Catholic light. All right. Well, if you do come in there, you need to show your face backstage. You don't have to show your face on the screen, but backstage you got to show your face before you're put on there. So the link is pinned. The link is pinned. This is your chance, either sink or swim. Right now, I don't need to win, so this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to listen in. Free grace is the only consistent of faith alone. Yeah, y'all put bars in the chat and I'll rhyme it. Free grace is the only consistent of the faith alone. You know what that means? You need to leave faith alone. Other people, they're fake and clones. Dude brought up about the fake lemon tree. Form? All right. From this after show, from the debate is born. What can I say? It's a whole nother form, meaning that it's already torn. New name, already brought up the new game. He brought up like Jason Bourne. What can I say? What am I waiting for? Brandon Myers is given the desire. He's speaking about Calvinism, saying they don't. We want to get loud with them, a little more consistent logically. Neither are biblical though. So what's your view? Are you Catholic, Brandon? How much church fathers were taught directly by the apostles? Who cares? None, right? None. Yeah. When you talk apostles, you might as well be talking fossils. You know why? Because everybody's reconstructing things, and it's like, what we got is the Bible, but these guys that look at tradition, they look at it like geological column and index fossils. No, nor am I EO, non-denominational. Okay. Well, welcome to the channel. Welcome to the channel. If other people come in, I'd say welcome to the panel. But right now, looks like all we can handle. This cat is fast asleep, so you know what it says. Ain't nobody distracting me. Sorry, I'm getting tongue-tied over here. I'm a little tired. So what we're going to do, guys, where's all these Catholics and NeedGodnet people that are going to pull up and explain their beliefs? 4,000 people. What's 1% of 4,000 people in the chat? How many is that? Let me ask ChatGPT. One 1% of 4,000. Sorry, I can't do math. I know you just gotta move notes. 1%. 1% of 4,000 is 40. All right, that's all I'm asking, guys. Can I get 1% of the Standing for Truth's combined audience of 4,000? That's 40 people, guys. This little beat is kind of sweet. Yeah. It's what witty is fine for me. So it's fine for me. And no, he don't charge me a finder's fee. All right. Hit that like button. He says, Brandon says, There's a handful, I think, but not many were provably directly taught by the apostles. I'm pretty sure it could be wrong, though. Yeah, I think his point is there's no church fathers during the time of the apostles. And, you know, when I hear church fathers, all I think about is, man, I'm sick and tired of these who's your daddy jokes. When they're bringing up patristics, you know, patros for a father. So who's your daddy? That's what it comes down to. Who's the daddy of your doctrine? Who's illegitimate? Yeah, that's what I thought. Where are all the tough defenders of either one of these lordship or positions? They don't want to come in because they're going to look like they're free Catholic. I don't like the phrase church fathers anyways, nor would they. I think prefer to call them early church apologists. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. Kurt will be doing an after show for this. I think at least we talked about it, where he'll do the debate review and interact. He might bring, you know, he may make a series out of it because you know how he likes to deal with the Catholic stuff as well. I don't know. But so let's do this, guys. Who should I debate next if I had a choice? Let's put it that way. Ryan or William Albrecht? Let me see. Where's the poll? Who should debate me? And let's do say next. Ryan or William? We'll just keep it like that. All right, guys, I put a poll out there. Let's see. I'm curious to see what y'all going to say. So far, it looks like Ryan, 100%. That's interesting. What is y'all's reasons in the chat for... Hey, howdy. Sorry, I just saw you. I don't know how long you've been there.
I wasn't there long.
Okay.
I got a new mic, though. Hopefully my sound's coming in a little better.
Yeah, it is. So what'd you think? Did you see the debate?
Yeah. Sort of went... I mean, I'll say that this one was pretty predictable. No one really brought anything new. Ryan has said what he's been saying. William has said what he's been saying. And so it was all pretty... nothing really surprised me on this one.
Yeah. It says, can I ask you a question unrelated to debate but related to free grace? Yeah, you mean ask in the chat or ask in the stream? Well, I'm still saying draw. So I made the joke. I said this debate could be summarized as fake lemons and fake quotes. Yeah, that's what it came down to. You know, it essentially, Ryan basically believes that initial faith produces faithfulness. So he would say that if your faith doesn't produce faithfulness, it's a fake lemon tree, you know? And that's wild. And you know what was interesting? As far as I know, Ryan never defended the quotes. All Ryan had to say is, look, yeah, I got that information online or from this source, and if you're calling it a fake quote, I haven't evaluated that. I'll look into it. We didn't hear any of that. And I feel like that was an L for Ryan because he
Well,
did. Go ahead, Howdy.
Ryan doesn't seem to put a lot of effort into preparing for the debates. He's more of just, he's not very, he doesn't seem to be taking deep dives. You know what I mean? Like, it would surprise me if he's read a lot of commentaries or, put a lot of effort in. It's more of like, I just read it and interpret it, sort of thing.
Yeah, well, he's definitely brave trying to argue from church history for his position. He's willing to do what I'm not willing to do right now. Look what Honesty said. Did they admit they actually agree? They agree about as much. You got two different types of lordship. You got the lordship that believe in eternal security and those that believe they can lose their salvation. The difference is with the Catholics, they believe that you can lose your salvation if you don't work the 7 sacraments, and do all that stuff. So it's just a different flavor. William debated you or will debate you? William debate me. You mean, CK, what are you saying? All right. Said debate Ryan because he poses as faith alone, but actually isn't. He backloads works. Okay, shrimp nachos, got you. Is loving God necessary to be saved in this system? No. You don't need to love God. You just need to recognize truth. You could hate the truth and still believe it. That's how we'll go. Hey guys, may I come in? Of course. But just want to be there and listen and talk if I need to. Is that okay? Of course. You have a key all the time, Janet. William's not. Oh, stop running, William. William's not in the chat, is he? I can't believe they timed you out for asking for a debate. Really? That's interesting. MPG. God is love. He's the one who loves you. Right, Asawako. Gotcha. I've heard a similar response from several people. Just making sure this is consistently the free grace position and wasn't misunderstanding. Yeah, so the Bible says we love God because he first loved us. John 3:16 is a description of God's love. Also, love is a fruit of the Spirit. If you don't have the Spirit, you're not saved. And it's the fruit of the Spirit, so I don't have to do something to show it. And that includes at the initial moment of faith. It could be a result that you love God, but it's not a necessary result. You could hate God, you could hate that Christianity is true, but if you believe that Jesus died for your sins, or as God and Savior, however way you want to put it, then you're saved. There's no requirement that says that you have to love God to be saved. Rather, what you see is that whenever you're saved, you now have the ability to love God. That's why it's called a fruit of the Spirit. Hey, servant of Christ. They don't want the smoke. All right. Yeah. William must have red flagged you before the debate began. Yeah, I don't know what's up with that. Okay, now I got a little bit of context. I forgot CK makes videos on William a lot.
Oh yeah, his main enemies are the Catholics, from what I saw in his stuff.
Yeah. To me, I don't know. That to me, it's boring. Like, why debate about Mary being sinless and all that? It's like a distraction. The cults, The Jehovah Witnesses, when they come on your door, they want to talk about holidays. They want to talk about blood transfusions. They want to talk about all these other things instead of salvation being by grace. You know. Hey, Sawako. Oh, that's interesting. Now it gives a notification at the top when somebody enters. I wonder if it did it because of Janet, because she's an administrator, or if it does it for everyone. I'll have to look next time. So this probably won't be a review after show because, hi Birdie, just because I don't have the energy. I got to work in the morning, and also Kurt is going to be doing one, I think maybe on Tuesday or something. So hey Crazor,
how's Janet doing? I saw in the Discord of what happened. Is everything okay with you guys?
Oh, you're talking about when her being cut?
Yeah.
Yeah, she got 7 stitches. She tried posting it to YouTube, but there were some problems. So, you saw the one on Instagram. Oh, 9 stitches. Sorry. Maybe the stitches are on Janet's mouth because she's not talking. God bless you too.
I was worried. I'm glad everything's okay though.
Yeah. It could have been really bad. I mean, if that was her stomach, she might have bled out, man. It was that bad. It looked like she'd been in a knife fight, that particular area. And maybe I'm just overreacting, but she did first aid and then rode her motorbike to the hospital.
She's like a John. She sounds kind of like John Wick almost, you know.
Yeah. Or John Rambo. Yeah. Yeah, it's wild.
I had a couple of thoughts on the debate, though.
Okay,
One was,
go ahead.
Whenever someone brings up a church father's interpretation, I think what I would ask is, and what argument did they use to support that interpretation? Like, do you recall what argument that they used? And can you provide me that argument so we can evaluate it? Because if you're just gonna throw it out there, I'm just gonna reject it. So if they had an argument, like, we can look at it. If they didn't have an argument, then I don't really care, you know.
Yeah, I know, man. I felt like everything was just generalities in this debate. It's like, would the lexicon say that? Okay, well, tell me what's the proper way to use a lexicon. You know, we never got that far. But one thing I did like, Howdy. Go ahead. You go ahead.
It's it seems like maybe the debate should have been, what does pistis mean?
Right. Yeah.
But I think that's really good because it would have actually forced them to actually like do hard research, like consult lexicons, the arguments they use, extra biblical sources, and all kinds of things. Like, they're just assuming it means what they think it means, and that seems to be what a huge part of the disagreement was about, you know. And neither of them really supported why they believed that it meant what they thought it means. It's just how I read it, I guess, is what they were saying.
So let me upset some charismatics real quick. This person, Crazor, says he has a harassing evil spirit and needs to leave. Well, I don't believe that demons can do that to you today. So, and I think it's all in your head. You're not gonna, if you know that a demon is harassing you, that means you're making a claim about revelation. I don't believe there's any revelation today. And so therefore that would put you an advantage over other Christians who just have the Bible alone. So you don't get to know that a demon is harassing you. the false cause fallacy and inverse proof fallacy. Yeah, I could definitely see that going on there. There's it was just really superficial, and I wonder, like, one good thing came out of it is it showed. Well, I mean, to confess, I realized I saw a lot of myself in William and how he debates, and like, I don't really want to be like that, you know. But at the same time, hey Cheryl, William did press, what's his name, Ryan, about proper cross exam. You're not going to rebut me in the midst of cross exam. That's the very thing that I did with C.J. Cox, and everybody got a butthurt for it. I guess I got to be Catholic to get away with it, right? Or did we get it accepted? But anyway, yeah. So I like that, but at the same time, when it was Williams' time to cross exam, do I ever debate Ortho Bros? I debated Seraphim Hamilton, and he dealt with the Bible. So if you can find an Orthodox person that deals with the Bible instead of trying the epistemological copy J. Dyer approach, then sure, that'd be great. I
just wanted to say about that really briefly, because it's somewhat relevant. I actually got to talk to Wi-Fi Gospel a couple days ago. We talked for about an hour or two, and he's I think he's going for the ortho bro epistemology stuff. Like he's like a fan of transcendental arguments, and he's like I think he had a good experience going to a Eastern Orthodox parish, and he seems to be heading in that direction.
I mean, that's sad. I know some of his family, you know, but yeah,
it's just well, the only reason I remarked that is because it seems to be appealing to a lot of people for some reason. Like there's this like cultural sort of ortho bro movement that seems to speak to people for whatever reason.
Yeah, so here's what I got to say to the ortho bros. If they debate free grace, they're going to have to see an orthodontist. Anyway, I'm just saying, we're a whole nother animal. And the whole, here's my thing, Howdy. There's certain views within free grace that I recognize, okay, there could be a fork in the road here based on a certain philosophical view of things. For example, there's two different views of faith within free grace, but both of them depend on a particular philosophical position. And while they have similarities with Gordon Clark, it's like, I'm not really going to hang my whole argument on one of those philosophical positions. So I'm trying to, even though it's not fully possible, I'm trying not to allow my philosophy to determine my theology.
Right. My thoughts on philosophy and theology is that it seems like philosophy comes prior to theology, but if you're going to be, if like, let's say like divine revelation, then philosophy sort of bends the knee to whatever the theology is saying. Mm-hmm. But everyone has a philosophy. I mean, people say that they don't have a philosophy. That just means that they're not aware of their biases or their presuppositions or a whole bunch of things that they come to the table with.
Right.
But I think that you come to the table with your philosophy and you sort of morph it around revelation. I think that should be the general approach. And I assume you're talking about something like volunteerism, because that seems you were talking about that before.
Well, that could be part of it, but I mean, no, it could be just the idea that is faith persuasion, or is it, does it have the uh, the belief idea in it.
That's not a philosophical, is it? That's not a philosophical issue. That's linguistic issue. Like that's something that is not determined philosophically. That's determined by the usage of the word, like what it means.
Yeah. So let me, since you brought that up, I want to show you something. I haven't read this way. I said Ambrosias, Ditmar. I was spelling it out because that's how he said it. Ambrosias. All right. So let me show you this book. I don't know if we've ever talked about this one.
I do remember you had a couple of videos out going about trying to figure out what the meaning of pistis is.
Yeah, those were the Che ones. But look at this one. What is faith? How to know that you believe? J.D. Myers. And Sean Lazar was originally going to write a book on faith. And he said J.D. beat him to it, basically. And said he did such a good job that he didn't need him to write anything else. I think that's what he says at the beginning. Whoa, this is... Definition of faith. When we begin to define the word faith, it is important to recognize the modern English usage of the word faith does not match the ancient Hebrew or Greek usage. The way this word is used today bears little resemblance to the way the word was used in biblical times. The word faith is sort of like the word love, though somewhat in reverse. In modern English, we have one word for love, and we use it in reference to a wide variety of objects, including sports, spouses, occupations, and vacations. But in Greek, as nearly everyone knows, there are 4 words for love. Each word has a different shade of meaning and used in reference to different types of objects. Yet when people do not know about the different types of love in the Greek language, they read about love in the Bible, they may confuse the way the word is used in the Bible with how we sometimes use it today. Therefore, when the Bible talks about God's love for us, some people might think that God just temporarily likes us, as when a person loves a song they hear on the radio. Something similar happens with faith, though in reverse. Greek only has one root word for faith, whereas English has several. The Greek noun is pistis and the verb is pisteuo, with the root for being pissed. But English Bibles tend to translate the first as faith and the second as belief. Sometimes the noun even gets translated as faithfulness, which most would agree is quite different in meaning than faith itself. Furthermore, there are even cases where the Greek word will get translated as trust. So here we have one Greek word with at least 4 different English words used to translate it. For consistency, it might be best to use only one English root word as a translation for the one Greek word. I suggest belief and believing. And I know Howdy don't like this, but listen. This in itself would clear up a lot of confusion about faith. But this would not clear up all the problems. Even if we take the main 2 English translations, faith and believe, our modern English usage of the word does not come close to matching the ancient Greek usage. Today, when we talk about faith and belief, we generally use the word as a synonym for hope. We might say, I believe the Cubs will win the World Series this year, but we don't really know for sure that they will. In fact, such a belief is closer to wishful thinking. Or we might say, I have faith that the government will keep me safe, but this is closer to hope. There's a good chance that the government would do its job to protect us, but it cannot protect us from everything all the time, especially not from natural disasters and rogue terrorist attacks. In sentences such as these, the word belief and faith are equivalent to wish and hope. In light of these sorts of problems about faith, people get confused, and rightly so. When they read about faith and belief in the Bible, they're not sure whether they should understand faith to be more like hope, wishful thinking, trust, faithful actions, or maybe something else. A lot of the confusion arises from something Plato taught more than 2,000 years ago. N.T. Wright summarized it well. Plato declared that belief was a kind of second-rate knowing, more or less halfway between knowing and not knowing, so that the objects of belief possessed a kind of intermediate ontology, halfway between existence and non-existence. This way of thinking has colored popular usage so that when we say, I believe it's raining, we're cushioning ourselves against the possibility that we might be wrong. Whereas when we say, I know it's raining, we're open to straightforward contradiction. But this usage has slid over the last centuries to the point where, with a kind of implicit positivism, we use know and knowledge for things we think we can, in some sense, prove and believe in as cognates for things that we perceive as degenerated into more private opinions without much purchase on the wider world. Whether or not Plato was right, and I don't think he was, his way of thinking about faith and belief is the way people use the words today. Faith is more of a hope or a possibility that something might or might not be true. In the mind of many, their beliefs do not need facts to back them up, and sometimes their beliefs can even contradict the facts. But this is not the way faith is described in Scripture or in the writings of early Christians. In the Greek New Testament, the word for faith is most commonly used in reference to something that a person knows to be true. That is where N.T. Wright is headed in the quote above. For New Testamentary Christians, to believe something or to have faith meant they were persuaded or convinced of the truth of it. They knew it to be true. Good synonyms for faith, therefore, are not hope or wish, but rather persuasion, conviction, or knowing. New Testament Greek lexicons such as Badag, which Ryan brought up, typically provide three basic definitions for pistis. When used with an article, the faith is typically refers to the body of Christian beliefs that separate Christianity from other religious faiths. It's used this way 13 times in the New Testament. Second, the word can be translated as faithfulness or fidelity. Badag lists 6 possible verses with this meaning, but not all English translations of these passages translated in such a way. In fact, major contemporary English versions translate pistis as faithfulness or fidelity in only 3 or 4 New Testament verses. And I think that's changing now too. And even these could arguably be translated as faith. So mention those passages here. This point will be discussed further in chapter 4. The third possible definition for pistis is also the most common. Over 180 times in the New Testament, pistis refers to believing. In context, this belief occurs when a person knows something to be true, based on the reliability of the one who teaches it. The last part of this understanding is critically important, as we will surely see. But anyway, there's more that can be said in here and it goes through it. But the philosophical part that I'm talking about is basically this. Are you saved by believing something's true? And now that you believe something's true, do you need to put trust in it? You know, that's what the differences within free grace says. Some explanations make it sound like a 2-step process. Others say it's a 1-step process.
So what you just read, I think that the author and the person he quotes are almost totally confused conceptually, and they're also not in alignment with like the consensus and the material that I've read on it. So I would have to vehemently disagree with most of what was said.
Right, and so your position is it should be translated as faith, not belief, right?
Yeah, but more than just like a choice of translation, I think they're just misrepresenting like the word, and it's like I've actually put I'm not going to say I'm an expert on the word, but I've done a pretty decent amount on it, and I've just come to, I guess, radically different conclusions. I can talk a little bit about that, but I don't know if it's interesting to you or to anyone else.
No, it's fine. Let me look in the chat real quick. Let me catch up, because I knew when I started reading. Let me catch up to everybody.
There are a lot of Janet fans.
Yeah. Well, Janet's practicing the 48 laws of power, you know. Basically, make herself rare. Let's see. If it's evil, it's the devil. Yeah, the orthodontist thing. Yeah. Carnivore diet. What am I thinking? Is it True Hey Melody? No, it's clearly something I missed, not medical. Yeah, because you're the Daniel. You got to show your face in the backstage if you want to be on stage. Sure. All right. Here we go, Daniel. Hello, Daniel. Did you see the debate?
I did.
Well, what'd you think?
Well, I think Ryan did what he normally does, which is rely on false analogies and rhetoric instead of actually exegeting any of the text that he brought up. And I think William wanted to go to the fathers, but what I find when discussing with people who believe in scripture alone is they couldn't give a rip about what the fathers say. So I think if both of them would have just stuck to exegesis, Ryan would have lost.
Yeah. And I think that before they ever debated, it should have been clear. Look, this is going to be an exegetical debate, or at least a debate on Bible alone. It's not going to be about tradition. And then it would have been a cleaner debate. But because Ryan is new to debating, he didn't know to set those rules for the very beginning, in negotiation. So I had a feeling that SFT knew that from the very beginning because of how he opened up. He made a reference to history. And I'm like, okay, so this debate is not just limited to just the Bible. History's at play in this. And it's Ryan's fault because Ryan should have specified a specific proposition that would have, let me look in the bottom of the debate and see what it says. Because if you go to the bottom of the video, okay, so the proposition is salvation by faith alone in Christ or by faith in good works in Christ. And, to make that, it would have been easier if it would have said, does the Bible teach that salvation is by faith alone in Christ or by good works in Christ? And the problem with that is that that's not even framed how the Catholics view it. The Catholics will say, well, we don't believe salvation is by good works. We believe that salvation is by the grace, and it's administered through the 7 sacraments. So they don't believe their views good works.
It should have been something like as something like from the perspective of justification. Do works like I would have just gave like the definition of like how Trent defines it and see if the Council of Trent canon on justification, if that's true or false.
I don't one second. I don't hate you. I actually wanted you to become one of the contributors on my channel from the very beginning, but then you went left on me, then wanted to debate me, and then you backed out of debating me. So, yeah. Go ahead, Audi.
No, that's pretty much it. I just think it would have been clearer because the only obvious difference between them that I could tell was their theory of justification, and probably arguing for how the Council of Trent defines justification and its canons. Probably would have been a more precise topic.
Yeah, I agree. That's fine. If you want to debate them, make my life easier, that's fine. I don't want to debate anybody that anybody else could debate. What's the fun of that, I want to contribute something unique. Hey, Lynn, good evening. Let's see here. Man, chemistry in your body is messed up, causing your hormones to behave inefficiently. That leads to illusions. Let's Submit to God. His word is truth. I love how people can't understand what simple thing like belief is. Well, there's philosophical issues in there. And it is a word study thing, but at the same thing, it just seems like that it does come down to the philosophical thing. And you're right. I'm glad you brought this back up, Howdy. It is kind of similar to how, and remember, I'm new to this, how Scotus viewed things. What's the distinction, Howdy? Do you will what you don't believe to be true, or which follows what, or whatever?
I'm not sure on Scotus and Aquinas's how they explicate faith and belief, and I was more.
Right.
I was only reading them for their metaphysics primarily.
Okay. Yeah, so that was what you're right. I was referencing that, and I hope to get Chris and maybe Lazar or Myers, the guy that we were just reading right now, that whole book on faith. He might come on. He holds as far as I know, he holds the universal reconciliation. So I'll catch a lot of flack. That'd be like if I had Howdy give a presentation. It would have to be a very unique presentation. I'll put it that way. Let's see. But
well, I would never give a presentation on anything theological, except in so far as like definitions of words that are used in the primary literature and philosophy of religion. Like I wouldn't do anything exegetical. I wouldn't. I don't like doing that kind of stuff. But I did. No. If you ever wanted me to do any sort of presentation, it would be more in the area of philosophy.
Right. Yeah. And J.D. Myers is unique because he used to be GS. I want people to know about all the arguments. I'm not scared of that, and I'm going to catch some flack for it, but I want people to know about all the arguments. Have I read Plantinga? There's a book called Behind the Text. I read it probably in 2009. It's a hermeneutic book, and it's got, I think Plantinga is in there. Let me see if I can bring it up real quick. Yeah. Behind the Text, History of Biblical Interpretation. But this is, if I remember, this is the same book. It has articles by Plantinga, but that's really the limit of what I've read by him. I think it's in here. Let me see. Wow, I haven't seen this book in a long time. Hey, it can turn, but I can't open? Come on. I could go to Amazon. Are you not going to give me a table of contents? Y'all are scared. That's the book I read. I read it in like 2008, 9 or whatever. Yeah, this book is like really liberal, if I remember right, compared to what my beliefs are. But yeah, I haven't read anything like an actual book from Plantinga. I've only read like bits and pieces that have been included in hermeneutic books. Believe me, this slaps, absolute banger.
Hey,
Yeah.
Layman.
Yeah. Go ahead.
So, I don't know if you've checked into that Habakkuk 2:4 verse that William was bringing up, but I actually read a Jewish translation like a year ago, and it translates it as faithfulness. So
Right.
it's kind of interesting that, like, you know, the Jewish people translate it as Strong's 530 does, as faithfulness. Because if you go to Strong's 530, the word there does translate to faithfulness. But in most of our English translations, they just say the word faith. And I feel like Ryan was really like hammering on an English translation rather than the original Hebrew. So,
well, yeah.
yeah.
And there's also Septuagintal differences.
Mhm.
Like would translate his faith. It's been a while since I've been in Habakkuk 2:4, but let's see what we can do. Man, I can't even spell. All right. So let me tell you, I take this passage as referring to the Christian walk. I don't take it as referring to salvation. Some people think that, but the positionally righteous will experientially live by faith. But I think it's all experiential here. I'm talking about the walk. So, because right here, Vesedik, there's righteous right here. Amunto.
Yeah.
So and so faith in the, but look what it says. But the righteous will live by his faith. You notice, see, it has a pronominal suffix at the end. This so let me see if I can bring it up. I'll tell you what, let's make this fun. Bring up ChatGPT. All right. Explain the Hebrew of Habakkuk 2:4. All right, so we're going on down. Be emunoto, by his faithfulness. From emuna, steadfast, trustworthiness, faith, fidelity. The suffix his, it's called a pronominal suffix. The debate, should it be subjective, his faithfulness, or objective, his faith in God? Both are possible. Context leans toward enduring trust, steadfastness, reliance on God. Yeah, because the context is the distinction between the proud one that is prideful, but if I remember right, it's about the Syrian captivity and the response to it. His soul is not right with him, but the righteous will live by faith. So that's the distinction between the proud one and the one that's living by faith. So future imperfect, well, they're taking it as durative sense, but it can just mean standard wills as far as all that. The thing is, it's used in the New Testament. So yes, now yes. So now watch what it does in the Septuagint. All right. But if he shrinks back, that's Hebrews language. My soul has no pleasure in him. And then it says, but the righteous one, ekpastuos mu zesatai, will live by my faith. You see that? The mu is there. The pronoun is used there for my faith. So the Hebrew is translated in the Septuagint by that. That doesn't make it right, but it makes it interesting. Mm-hmm. Some manuscripts omit mu, my, which is the form Paul cites in Romans 1:17. Because yeah, there's textual differences even in the Septuagint. So let's bring up an exegetical guide here. Habakkuk 2:4. So right now, here, let's do, this is text comparison with of the different Septuagints. of 4. See the moo, ooh?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why it's messing up. I don't know what those lines are. I'd have to find out. Maybe that's a varying indication for that. Here's Sinaiticus, Septuagint in the New Testament. Moo. Let me see here. Ancient versions, Old Testament and Greek, Septuagint. All right, here we go. This is the one I wanted. So these are the different. This is Sweet Septuagint. What's his name? Ralph's and Brenton's.
Mm-hmm.
Moo, Zaytai. So they're all saying moo there. But so here's the comparison with the Vulgate. I think this one has Septuagint comparisons. No, this is Latin. So let's see how well ChatGPT does with this. List all variants in the Hebrew and LXX. All right. So it's bringing up a Pesher from the Dead Sea Scrolls.
Mm-hmm.
It reads essentially the same as the Masoretic, with no major variant except orthographic spelling differences. For Emunato, it's spelled slightly different. And see, let me see here. But same meaning, his faith, faithfulness. Confirms Masoretic, puffed up, arrogant. Textual variants. Just looking through here. Some manuscripts omit mu, my, given ekpastuo zaitai, by faith he shall live. New Testament citation variants. Romans 1, Galatians 3 don't have the mu. Hebrews 10:38, quoting the full Septuagint, have the mu.
Mm-hmm.
This shows early Christian texts follow different strands of Septuagint textual tradition. So here's the side-by-side variants. This is not a problem for me because, like I said, now watch this. Run this through. Let's see if it remembers the 4A chart I created instead of the Pew chart. Let's see if it remembers the 4A chart. No, you're making up stuff, GPT. Don't do that. I'll use the Pew chart. I must not have used the chart lately because it forgot. The free grace position experience ultimate chart. Ryan, 51% want me to debate Ryan and 49% want me to debate William. Well, if you want to get into the language stuff more, I would want to debate William. Yeah, positional salvation. I don't like how this evaluate Habakkuk 2:4 and its New Testament use according to this chart. All right. See, they're taking it as positional. I don't take it as positional. And there's other free gracers that don't take it as positional. They're bringing up the experiential option. All right. So run Romans 1:17 through the chart. It's 1:17, I think, right? Positional, clear position. Experiential, believers must continue. Is in effect ultimate. Romans 1:17 applies Habakkuk 2:4 primarily in a positional category. Justification by faith apart from works. All right, so now I'll ask, what are your reasons for not making the entire passage experiential? I'm fixing to swing back to the chat in a minute. So look what it's doing. It's making assumptions here. Paul's thesis: the gospel is the power of God's salvation when one believes. So they're assuming that the gospel is that. But gospel may not be positional. And if you take that, then it moves things around. Salvation may not be positional.
Daniel saying he's in the back.
Oh, he must have fell out. Where'd he go? I don't see him. I accidentally dropped. Yeah, it happened again because you're not here right now. Could be experiential. Habakkuk applied across pew. Free grace takeaway. Anyway, yeah, that gives people a taste of how I would deal with it. Let's look at the chat. Daniel, come back in whenever you can. And Doki, thanks for the blessing of the membership. Let's see. I'm feeling the groove. That's good. Would you believe me, crazy or don't be serious? If I told you you were a four-legged animal known as a pig and you were purple, would you believe me? And you fly too. Yeah, well, hey Ashley. SoCal got a membership. Oh boy. Have y'all noticed how people strawman sola scriptura and act like it's sola scriptura? Like I assume every friend's church father. Yeah. It's literally the best rap I've ever heard. What? There is no words. You mean the rap beat? Birdie is spider. I didn't know that. This guy is layman. Birdie is spider monkey. Oh. Okay. If anyone is new to Open Minds, just click on the pinned link. Yep. I got treatment by force when I wasn't sick, so I'm medical. Well, if you're crazy, you're not going to believe us anyway. Nothing we say is going to convince you. All right. You listen to layman's sick bars. Ryan relied on false analogy rhetoric. There's zero exegesis text quoted. Read full context quote. Teaches the opposite of what Ryan believes. Yeah. And now Ryan is going to have to make videos showing that he didn't use fake quotes and that he used those in context.
A lot of times, what happens when I'm watching people, they'll sort of, read a verse and then give their interpretation of the verse and then move to another verse and give their interpretation of the verse. I would say, like, okay, well, what's the argument for that interpretation? You're not really...
Right.
You're giving me your position, at least, but, did you substantiate maybe the reasons you have for interpreting it in this way rather than something else?
Yeah.
That's the part that made me cringe, because he kept saying, like, William, you didn't respond to Romans 4. And I was thinking, man, if I was talking Romans 4 with him, I would have been going back to the Old Testament and showing him how it actually proves the opposite of his belief.
Well, and the thing is, and I mentioned this because Ryan tried to close the debate by saying, oh, well, he didn't do any of these three things. Like, well, what are you talking about? William reframed the whole debate. And so he doesn't have to address those three things. He reframed it to say, look, no, these passages that you're trying to make positional, for lack of a better term, are talking about a process of salvation, as how the Catholics see it. So him just restating the information in his closing, I didn't feel like did anything. It wasn't convincing.
Yeah. Yeah, because I'm assuming you guys agree with my position, right? I don't know, because I think you guys.
Well, I'm free. I'm free grace.
Okay, I wasn't sure.
Yeah, I'm free grace.
Yeah, because my position is that prior to Genesis 15:6, Abraham was already justified by faith in Genesis 12, because otherwise God wouldn't have blessed him. And I also think the example of David, he was a man after God's own heart prior to his confession after his sin. So the examples in Romans 4 are about men who were already saved before God credited righteousness to them. So I think it's closer to the Catholic view than the Protestant view.
Yeah. Now, of course, this goes up to the issue about the use of the Old Testament and the New Testament. Mm-hmm. But I agree. And contextually, those passages in the Old Testament, and I would argue in Romans 4. I got in trouble for saying this in the chat, slightly trouble. But Romans 4 is about Abraham having an erection and him having enough faith to sleep with Sarah, even though her womb is dried up.
Yeah, so Free Grace 289 said he doesn't believe Abraham was saved before Genesis 15. So I find that insane, because how could God bless a child of wrath, number one? And also, why in Hebrews 11 is he lauded as a hero of faith for that act in Genesis 12? It doesn't make any sense if he's not saved back then.
Yeah. See, I've been dealing with Watchmen to make profit. Oh my gosh. Yeah, the whole preacher people, I want them to delete their content. But other people are like, no, they need to be looked at as fools, if they're wrong. But hey, Chris, I lost a lot of people that I know who were Orthodox once I started pointing out that they basically are atomized Polycarp or idealized Polycarp. I think Ryan was decent with William, just all over the place. Yeah, but the thing is that I don't know, man. It was a superficial debate. I know William can go very deep, and Ryan gave him nothing to work with.
William's focus is generally on early church history, patristics like Polycarp, Clement, like for the first 400 or 500 years. That's sort of his bread and butter.
Yeah, sorry, I wasn't laughing at you. I'm laughing at Glass Tuxedo. He said, "Is that a dog or a cat?" That is a 25-pound cat named Bear.
Yeah, that's a cat.
That's a cat, but he acts like a dog. Eats like a dog. But man, he's sleeping nice and sound. Oh, now my camera's messed up. All right, now you can't. I wanted y'all to see him. All right. Anyway, yeah. I just didn't see that Ryan is giving a scholarly argument. I mean, William, for all the theatrics and everything, he is scholarly. And but everybody wants me to have a conversation with NeedGod. And they're like, well, why don't you go on his channel? You mean be on a waiting list for hours? All right, so it's a cat.
Well, William's not good. I think your area, you need to be debating people who are exegetes primarily. William is more of a historian, right?
Yeah, but he's willing to have the discussion about faith. You know, the definition, the lexical stuff. And so, I mean,
that reminds me.
Go ahead.
One thing that irritates me is some people will say, well, what's the biblical definition? Like, let's go with the biblical definitions of these words. And I'm like, there is no such thing. There's not like I don't see like any of the text in the Bible as like lexicographical works, if that makes sense. Like, yeah. I think there's words in the Bible, and the words have usages, and the words have meanings, and all of that. But I don't think the Bible's a dictionary.
Look at Janet. Yeah, you're right. It's true. I mean, you could talk about how Paul understands faith. You can do that. You could talk about, how it's understood in biblical theology. But the moment that you say, well, the whole Bible consistently teaches this, you're given a theological definition.
Right.
Yeah, Janet is promoting the debate.
I want to talk a little bit about my understanding of faith, or maybe ask you some questions on sort of the research that I've done. But I haven't touched it from the Hebrew lineage. I've only went through the Greek lineage. So from my understanding in the literature I've read, most people agree that it traces back to some Proto-Indo-European language where the main crux of the word is persuasion. Would you agree or disagree with that, or are you going to suspend judgment on that, like you haven't looked into?
No, I'm convinced of the persuasion stuff. Chris Morrison might get me to swing the other way eventually, but I argued the persuasion view.
Well, I don't take the persuasion view either, but I agree, like etymologically, the source word of it as contemporarily understood is that the root originates from a word that meant persuasion. So after Proto-Indo, the first attestations or usages of the word are like in Attic Greek, in Homer, and the Iliad, the super old stuff that we have. And in those texts, the usages generally is about trust in the sense of treaties and agreements between parties in those works. Would you agree, disagree, or you haven't looked into that particular area?
No, I mean, it sounds about right. Far as about Well, right now what you're doing is you're doing what the BDAG does. It goes from classical to forward. And so the things that you're saying are not things I have never heard before. So, I mean, I don't think that you're wrong. I think the issue is this right here, Howdy. When you're talking about secular stuff, you only have an experiential category. But whenever you're talking about this idea that one moment of faith has a certain result that leads to eternal security, then it becomes distinct.
Right.
Or if you're talking about the first moment of faith or the first moment of belief, it's distinct from additional moments of faith or belief.
Yeah, these are all generally non-theological usages, although I think there were some usages that could be, I don't know, I don't think there's, but in any event, all I would do, like, the only thing I would say is like what the word meant to the people at that time reading it pre-evangelization. That's the point that I can get up to. After that, it gets into theology, exegesis, interpretation, which isn't my particular area just at this time. So I can get it right up to the Bible, you know. But
yeah, well, here's the issue: are they reading it from an Old Testament context, or are they reading it from a Greco-Roman context?
right,
Because the issue is that the Jews, the Hebrews, it comes with their own culture.
yeah, it's definitely their religion, but it's written in Greek, obviously, and it's written to Gentiles who had not. Well, let me ask you this: would you say that the books in the New Testament are written to Gentiles without previous? Well, I mean, they would have, like, there would just be like oral stuff, but would there be people that it was intended, people who did not have that background that you're talking about?
Well, it's a good question, because what I see in Scripture is you have the Jewish background, and then you have the synagogues, and the synagogues were a way to reach the Greeks. It wasn't the only way, but it was the primary way. So a lot of the people that are coming to salvation, unless you're talking about like a purely pagan context, but even in those purely pagan contexts, they still may have been exposed to the synagogue. So I tend to think of a Jewish flavor even in pagan contexts.
Right, there's definitely a Jewish understanding, but go ahead. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Yeah, it's like we live in a world of pagans today, but most people know what Jews believe now. I mean, it's sort of similar to that.
But the main, I mean, I have a lot to talk about the pistis word because after that point, then it gets into my area. And I'm already familiar with the works in question. And so when the works of pistis, when Socrates, Aristotle, and Plato use it, I'm very familiar with their works. And so when I read in the places they used it and people commentaries on how the meaning was used in their works, I'm very familiar with that. So the main thing that we have in the record, the best thing that we have, is actually a lexicon from I think 200 or 300 BC, where it actually has a lot of theological words in it, and their definitions of it. Although
what's the name of that lexicon?
I don't know if it has a name, but it's let me look at it. It's from Plato, or a school of Platonic, and they were just writing definitions of the words that they were using so people could understand what they were saying. It's in Plato's Complete Works, and I think it's called just the Dictionary. What is it called?
So, while you're thinking about that, a thing that happened though is when the Septuagint translated the Hebrew, it wasn't pulling necessarily from the secular philosophical background.
Right.
So there's that.
It's from the 4th century BC. It's called Definitions. It's a dictionary of 185 philosophically significant terms.
Okay.
Now, when we
Does
say
it have
secular,
an author that it's attributed to?
it's from a Platonic school of thought. Theophrastus wrote 3 books, and Crypsius the Stoic wrote Similarities. I don't know who exactly wrote it, but it's like.
Okay.
But anyways, it's pretty early, and the words that they use are theologically significant insofar as like these philosophically significant terms are, I think, also theologically significant terms, because the philosopher and the theologian are both thinking, big picture. And so Plato and Socrates at least thought that there was an afterlife. They had a lot of doctrines about that kind of stuff, and arguably not very much in common with the religion of the Hebrews. But the words in the New Testament are drawing a lot from this well. So you like theos, Genesis, what's the word? Sulchi, pneuma, dynamis, like
Dikaios.
Yeah, dikaiosini. They have all the main theological words are also in this definitions book. And so in here they actually also have pistis, and I can read that to you if I can find it really quickly. I think it's just pistis, faith, the conception that things are as they appear to one, or the firmness of one's character. That's how it's defined in this book at 400 BC. And it's one of the only lexical works we have from something this early.
Do you ever use the database that's online? I can't remember the name of it. Right?
Yeah, the LSJ or whatever it's called.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it has the LSJ, but there's another name. There's another. It's like TX. I don't know. I'm too tired right now to think of it, but no, that's good, Howdy. I hope to find more recent books on the issue, and you're right. I haven't become dogmatic about it. I think with Calvinists, I use the persuade one because you can't say it's mental assent. It's like, what do you mean? How do you assent? Because in this view, persuasion means you're not making a decision. You've come to the conclusion from your choice to study something, but the actual belief is not a decision itself. Now, of course, the argument against that is belief is used in the imperative in some places.
Right. Like you can't well, you could always read it as to look into it, because they can choose what to look into. So look into this. So briefly on that, volunteerism versus non-volunteerism for doxastic attitudes. Generally, the consensus is non-volunteerism, although that's not. Most people, on any philosophical position, there's going to be disagreement, but I will say it leans a pretty decent amount towards people aren't in absolute control of what it is that they believe. You're the common examples, can you believe that the moon is made of cheese, or these sort of thought experiments where it seems, at least for some beliefs, it's I can't choose not to or choose to. Now that's obviously not exhaustive, and there's a lot of arguments back and forth, but that's generally where it's at currently. I do want to send you a paper though, because I know you're tired and probably don't have time to get into this, but I think
I would like for you to do a presentation on belief.
Okay, let me send this to you anyway in case I die and I'm unable to do the presentation. So okay. Just broadly, my opinion is that meaning of pistis to the audience, to the Greeks at that time, the meaning of that word draws very heavily from Aristotle. Most of thoughts of that period draw heavily from Aristotle, Plato, and Socrates. That those are their philosophers, and philosophy has a huge influence on thought and meaning. And that's just my, I mean, maybe that's just my opinion, but it seems to be, I mean, obviously there's other works that aren't philosophical works that also, like I had mentioned, the Iliad, the Odyssey, and then there's a whole bunch of other stuff as well. But I think there's so much that I think is elucidated by how philosophers were using the word at that time. I want to send you the paper on that. It's from 2020. It's pretty recent.
Okay. Well, Born Again Arian's in the chat, and he's talking about that William Albrecht backed out of a debate with him.
I sent you the PDF. Sure, time. I mean, I can talk a little bit about it, unless you don't want to talk about that. But this is what, if I got
No,
to,
I'm interested in it, but I just don't know how much I can process. You know, you've done a lot of work on it, and if it'd be nice if I can get, you know, you could do a presentation on it. We can call it something like I don't know. How about this? An agnostic's evaluation of faith. What do you think of that?
Right, but it would be extra biblical. It wouldn't be biblical.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Yeah.
I could say something like an unbelief. A Greek unbeliever's understanding of the word pistis at that time that the gospel presentation was given to them, maybe.
Well, that's a longer title, but yeah. So you could say a secular evaluation of faith. How about that? A Greek secular evaluation of faith, I believe. Just help me come up with the title, and we'll set up a presentation for you.
Yeah, when we get into talking about stuff like belief and knowledge, and I know that you stay away from epistemology, but when we're talking about that kind of stuff, that's like sort of the, at least philosophically.
No. What I mean is staying away from is the bigger issue is debate-free grace. You know, that's my point. Whenever Orthodox or others retreat into epistemology, I feel like that's exactly what it is. They need to debate. Okay, just pretend the Bible is all we have. Defend your argument from that. If you can't do that, I don't got time to deal with you. You know, that's what I mean about that. But as far as epistemology, philosophy, I'm open to all of that. I just need other people to present and give their case and put it out there for evaluation. That makes sense.
Here's just to push back a little bit, I guess, is like, if you're going to say something like, well, the Bible is all that we have, and in my opinion, no one could know anything, like, because it doesn't define like a lot, like there's a lot of single use words, and even for the multiple use words, it's not like giving you definitions, and it's not showing you what the words mean. Okay. So yeah, there's a lot of pre-understanding that has to go into.
Well, I understand that, but my point is, I'm talking about debating whether free grace is biblical. That's what I'm talking about. That. But let's just say this. Okay, fine. Then what we'll do is, for the sake of this debate, I know this is not a real debate, but I would just say this. Okay, we will rule out any hapax legomenons that you believe are not definable. We won't use those to move the debate in one direction or the other.
Oh, I would just have to like reject any, like I wouldn't even know what it would mean to debate like literally Bible alone, because there's like, it's using a language. I mean, I don't, well anyways, I'll just skip over that because I don't want to argue that. I would say that regardless, free grace soteriology does, well, I think any soteriology is going to depend on what the word faith means, right? So
yeah, but does God require a person to know all the ins and outs of philosophy to be able to know what faith is in salvation.
No, I don't think so. But that's maybe beside the point. If we're trying to argue like what is like how salvation works, like a person doesn't have to know exactly how salvation works to be saved. But if we're going to talk about how salvation works, then we are going to have to know how salvation works. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and that's fine as far as talking about after the fact. But the issues with free grace theology is people want to basically either say this is what you got to believe to be saved, or it's going to result from that. And so that's the issue there. Howdy, I'm not criticizing. I'm so tired. I'm slurring right now, but I'm not criticizing you. My point is, the reason I focus on the free grace stuff is because I feel like the other stuff it's not a priority. In other words, if I can't understand the gospel enough to be saved, and then all those other issues are a big problem. I mean, but not, I'm sorry. If I can't understand the issue about salvation, none of that stuff matters. Because I need to know whether I'm going to go to the lake of fire or not. Yeah, and you could say, well, how do you know there is an eternal lake of fire? How do you know all of those things? And so that's what I'm saying. It's just like I've told you about Unitarianism. If Unitarianism is true, I'll get there eventually, you know, or Universalism, whatever.
Yeah, certainly, if Christianity is true, being saved is more important than winning a debate. I guess if that's what you're saying, I don't think anyone could disagree with it.
Well, what I'm saying is debates about salvation are more important than the debates about the other things, because every believer can understand salvation, but can every believer understand philosophy if they're not philosophically trained?
No. Like then only like maybe like 5 or 6 people would be saved.
Yeah.
So obviously not.
And so I try to think about, all right, what does a person, the average person, you know, need to understand about salvation? And I'll be like, God will hold me accountable for that. And then everything else we build from. But for the layman seminary purposes, I want stuff on the different views of faith. I want stuff like what you're talking about, Howdy. You know, I want that out there to be evaluated as it needs to be considered. You should not be dismissed merely because you're an agnostic. Put it that way. Right now.
Well, I mean, you can be. Like, it'll say, like, there's verses that can interpret, like, and I don't think unbelievers should be giving any, like, theological presentation, so I would stay away from that. But I think what would be acceptable is, like, giving what an unbeliever would think that what you're saying means. Like, so, for example, I'm an unbeliever, and you present to me the gospel, and I say, the words that you just used, this is what they mean to me. Is that what you mean, or do you mean something different? If that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, you gotta come talk about the terms and see if there's any differences before you debate those terms. You know. Yeah, I'm sorry, guys. I'm exhausted. Maybe Janet wants to keep flying the plane. I don't know, but I'm so tired. I'm really cloudy. I'm slurred speech right now. I didn't realize I'd be this tired, but I'm gonna have to go to work. I gotta wake up at 5 a.m. So 10 minutes more. About what though? Glass tuxedo. Okay, Janet can't. All right, guys. Well, I think Kurt's gonna do a review / after show soon, so y'all be looking out for that. I'm gonna get some rest. Y'all have a good night. God bless.
You take care.